Good to go?
Good to go.
Let's do it. What's going on, guys? Dr. Matt here, host of the Roadie Strength Podcast. Another great guest on today, John Amore. What's going on, man?
What's up? How's it going?
Owner, operator of Ronin Strength.
Ronin Strength.
And so we're over here at AMC, American Muscle Corp in Pawtucket. Cool gym. I've never been here before.
Yeah.
I've driven by this place a bunch of times, but is it relatively new as far as the gym? Or?
So this location is we were downstairs before. There was a boxing gym downstairs that they were collaborating for a bit.
Gotcha.
And then the space opened up. Used to be a PT space, and we moved up here.
Very cool.
I really like the lighting that comes in and the brick and stuff. I think it looks awesome.
This is a cool little area. My wife actually used to work for a handbag company that was like in this. What's this area? Is it called Pawtucket Village? Yeah. She used to work here, and there's like I know there's the I don't know if they're still there actually, but the coffee roasters are in there. So a lot of cool little businesses in this space.
Yeah, I think it's like a minute down the road.
The New Harvest.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, cool gym. It seems like they got a lot of good equipment. Like for me, like coming from a CrossFit type background, I see the assault bikes. I see some of like the fun toys. So
did you see the treadmills?
No, the assault runners.
Oh,
that's awesome. I'm gonna have to play around with some of that stuff before I leave.
It's fun. It's fun. I almost face planted several times the first time I used it.
Those are hard to use. But yeah, they're good for like
I guess lean into it a little bit. You know?
Totally, and like for circuits for CrossFit too.
Yeah,
because it's hard with the treadmill. You gotta push the buttons up and down and get up to speed.
Right.
But all right, so we're gonna start off with some rapid fire questions. So these are mostly for me because I get fun out of them. I get joy out of them.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with favorite coffee, your favorite coffee shop.
I'm all about Starbucks, man.
Nice. All right.
I pretty much like dark roast most of the time, like 90% of the time. I go with a dark roast, nothing in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I agree. I like the flavor of dark roast, but it has less caffeine in it.
Yeah.
It's slightly less, which most people wouldn't realize that.
No.
No, that's good.
The lighter roast is the blonde. They had the blondes for a bit. It was like
they almost taste like tea a little bit.
Yeah.
The dark roast is where it's at.
Yeah, I don't know. I like bitter.
Yeah.
Like dark chocolate too. I don't know.
Are you
tangent on food?
Are you like a bourbon whiskey guy too?
I used to drink whiskey. Yeah.
It's kind of that similar probably flavor profile, or like a mezcal.
I haven't had much mezcal.
No?
I think I had it once. Yeah. But whiskey was my thing for a while. Yeah.
Next question, we got favorite go-to breakfast or breakfast spot.
I make breakfast for myself 99% of the time, and it's like 93.7 beef with some broccoli. Yeah, that was my go-to. For years, I did lamb for breakfast.
No way.
Like about 12 ounces of lamb. Yeah,
like ground lamb.
Yeah.
Where do you get that?
I got it from Whole Foods.
Gotcha.
Brenna actually is a butcher at Whole Foods.
Oh, cool.
Now. Yeah, she's been a butcher for a while.
I've never had ground lamb.
Oh, it's pretty good. It's heavy on the calories. Really? Yeah, it's heavy on the calorie side. But
gotcha.
If you're doing like a lower carbohydrate or a growth, protocol of like,
sure,
you don't mind how many calories you're eating, it's pretty dang good. So.
Gotcha. All right, that's a good tip. I'm gonna have to check that out. What's the composition? Is it similar to like a 93% beef, or is it a little fattier?
I think it's a lot fattier. I think it's like 80%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So like a fatty cut of beef, almost like the 80% beef.
I'm not certain. Don't hold me to it.
Sure.
Butchers out there. Don't hold me to that.
Don't hold me to it. Just from memory.
Yeah.
Next question, we got favorite recent book. It could be audiobook, general book, or just a book that you liked in the past.
Let me think for 1 second.
Yeah, go for it.
So I've been doing art for a long time.
Sure.
As like a side thing. Before I was a trainer, I was into art. I was an illustrator, and I was a graphic designer beforehand. Nice. So one of the last books that I picked up was a figure drawing book by my current art instructor, Steve Houston.
Cool.
Great dude. Figure drawing. I can't remember the name of his book off the top of my head. I can see the cover of it. I can't think of the name.
Is he a local guy?
No, he's in Montana. Yeah, he teaches me from over the internet. So
gotcha.
Great dude.
And so I'm not super versed on art, but figure drawing. What comes to my head is like stick figures, but
basically that. A little elaboration on it.
Sure.
But it's representational art, so as opposed to like abstract art where it could or could not be something based on how much you're interpreting it, or in representational art, you're trying to get the the summarization of the circumstance that you're projecting onto the piece of art and get that to, say, get the person to feel something from that, right? So
gotcha.
A comic book could be a representational art. Like, you see like a superhero that's all jacked up and it's clear that they're strong. So you can feel that through the picture. So,
Sure. Are there any like big name artists you can think of who like do a really good job with that style of art?
Patrick J. Jones is a really, really good artist. Also works with Steve Houston, spelled Huston.
Okay.
Steve is a beast of a designer. Chris Legaspi and Charles Hugh, they're all basically my instructors.
Very cool.
Right now, and they're all like, they're the world class guys that I get to associate with and learn from, and
that's really cool.
Cool stuff.
Awesome. I did not expect that, which is great.
Total curveball.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we'll keep the rapid fires going. We'll move on to the next one. Favorite recent podcast?
I listen to a lot of YouTube stuff.
Okay.
More than anything right now. Let me think back.
Sure.
What's the name? I can remember going back to over and over again Seth Godin's podcast.
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was like a business dude.
Okay.
And he's put out a ton of books like Purple Cow, Tribes. That one like hit with the CrossFit community, I think, for a while.
I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, it's a good book. Another one, Lynchpin was another good book of his. But his podcast, like, that dude can talk really, really clear, concise ideas, and he has a lot of them. It's really cool stuff. Worth exploring, I think.
Cool. Yeah. All right, that's one to check out for sure. Next one, we got favorite Instagram accounts, and I'll preface this by saying it could be something that you find just entertaining, funny, or something that educational, whatever
RP.
You got. RP, yeah.
RP. Jared Feather, Dr. Mike.
They're awesome.
Russ Swole is always popping up on my feed. He's awesome. He's a huge dude. I think those are probably. I have a bunch of judo stuff on my my Instagram too. My algorithm keeps pushing that. So
cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Good stuff. Somewhere you've traveled recently, and I know you just had a kid. How long ago?
I mean, he's almost 3. Oh, he's gonna be 3 next year in a few months.
So you probably haven't done too much traveling.
No. Well, we went down to Disney. So yeah, we go to Florida every so often, maybe every 6 to 10 months or so. Family's got a house down there,
nice.
So go down there, go to Disney, have fun,
Very
come back
cool.
up. Yeah. Disney. Disney's the favorite place that we go to.
Man, time flies. I remember when he was just born, when we were sharing that space together. Yeah. That's 3 years ago. That's wild.
I love my little guy.
Yeah. And we got last one, favorite shoe or sneaker?
The ones that I'm wearing right now, Joomra. Okay. Is it Joomra? Joomra. They are the cheap version of the No Bulls. Like
really?
The shirt that I'm wearing. Yeah. I think these cost me $45 on Amazon, and they have the wide toe.
I was gonna say, look at that. They have that barefoot style shape,
and there's no drop. And I've bought them, I think, 4 times now.
So you really like them?
Yeah. I go through shoes every like 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, you beat on them.
Yeah, because anything from running to just literally using them for everything, walking around. And
how do you like those for running?
Not too bad. I'm not a good runner by any means.
Sure, yeah.
But I like that it's got the room and the ability to actually move my foot.
Totally.
Because I'm not into high impact.
I'm almost finished reading a book right now, Born to Run.
Yeah,
have you heard of that one?
Kelly Starrett, yeah.
Or sorry, not Born to Run. Is a different one. It's the title is very similar to that one, but it's about these barefoot running.
Yeah,
like they go into like Mexico, and there's like a tribe of people that like can do like ultra marathons and stuff barefoot.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And they're all about how like and it's cool that like there's so many different what's it, Vivo barefoot, Zero. There's so much barefoot footwear coming out right now.
Vibrams for a long time, dude, and they look silly as hell. I had like the neon green and gray ones, and I was like, these don't match anything that I'm gonna wear, so I'm just gonna look like a weirdo. But I didn't really care because like if I was doing like a leg press or a squat or something, I'd so much rather be in them because I had the ability to move around.
Right.
And also because like I did a lot of martial arts growing up, so I did a lot of striking and stuff. Like if you sit in like a side stance and you push off laterally, you can wear a hole in your shoe pretty quickly, like in the side. And I tend to do that because my feet are so wide. It puts a ton of pressure on like the outside knuckle over here.
Sure.
And I'll tend to like wear a hole. These shoes do not break down that way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So like I actually only get them because the insides break down, and because I know I should probably switch my shoes every so often. Gotcha. You know. But yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Next question. Oh, all right. So we'll go on to one more question I'll throw at you. What do you like right now for music in the gym? Oh, what's your kind of like your big push song?
So I was a singer in a heavy metal band.
Okay.
For a bit.
Okay.
I really like heavy metal, black metal, death metal. Yeah. So I always go to Black Dahlia Murder.
Okay.
And Viljarta.
Okay.
If I pronounce that correctly. If not, I'm sorry. And like a lot of gent, D-J-E-N-T, gent.
Okay.
And most recently is Archspire, which is probably like the fastest percussion vocals that I've heard in my life. It's like incredibly fast rapping for metal.
Are they U.S. bands?
Except for Viljarta, yeah. Very cool. And sadly, the singer of Black Dahlia Murder passed away most recently, which was really
tough,
hard. Yeah, like it was such a good band. Like, yeah, they set a bar at a certain standard, and you know, it's awesome stuff.
That's cool. Yeah. I like that.
What about you? What are you listening to?
I've been big on hip hop in the gym for a while, so I'm a big fan of like Meek Mill, Young Jeezy, are like those are kind of my two big ones. I'll put on when it's like
good stuff.
When it's go time, when it's time to get fired up.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I'll switch it up. Like I do like some EDM stuff. I'll put on like if I'm getting sick of like hip hop.
Yeah.
But just hip hop has been my go-to in the gym.
Yep.
Like almost always.
I had a rotation back and forth between the two for a while, and also I do got to say. A lot of Viking music, like traditional, like tribal music, is so good for like getting a warm up in and getting your mindset right. If you're in that competition mindset, and you just got to be like, it's go time, you know, like you can feel your ancestors like vibes like running through your bloodstream. You know,
I definitely will say that like I'll put on some like Irish music every once in a while, especially if I'm like I have a little gym in my basement.
Okay.
If it's just like solo, I'm the only one there, and then just like put like and I'm talking like some Dropkick Murphys, but like some more like tribal like Irish music that definitely gets the blood flowing sometimes too.
You can feel it's like it's wartime.
Yeah, literally, wake something up and
Right.
No, it's good. So next we'll kind of get into your background. I guess I want to start with. Because I know you've been big in martial arts for a while, but I want to start with lifting.
Sure.
So when did you first get your start into just weight training in general?
So my dad taught me how to lift. I was 12. He taught me how to bench press, and that was kind of the start. We always had a weight set in our house somewhere, dumbbells, you know, like 30-pound dumbbells just hanging out on the floor somewhere. Had one of those total gyms, like the Chuck Norris, you know, slide board thing, which I actually thought was fantastic for a long time.
Sure.
And, you know, I think like a lot of things pushed me away from that style of training over time, but I was growing up, I was overweight. At 12 years old, I was 230 pounds and 5'5".
Wow.
So I was not like muscular.
Sure.
I was just overweight. So that slant board was the way that I got to a pull-up.
Yeah.
I trained myself progressive overload style to do pull-ups through angling that slant board and just getting reps and reps and learn how to train my back.
Very cool.
And I remember like, I think I was like 16, 17 years old where I was like, man, I just want to be able to do a pull-up because I actually had a decent bench press when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah. I could flex a little bit. I had like a 330 bench press when I was a 16-year-old, but I couldn't squat to save my life. I didn't know how to squat down. Didn't know how to put a bar on my back. I was scared to do it. One time I tore my shorts doing it, like my boxer shorts. I was doing it in my basement, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing at all. And
that's great.
Yeah. And so my dad taught me how to do it. I was in martial arts for a long time. I didn't want to ever get bigger. I kind of wanted to like shrink down. All kinds of lovely influences coming at me from high school, like people prodding me to get leaner in a very friendly way, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So I always wanted to like be able to move myself, and having done martial arts for a long time, I wanted to be able to do like gymnastic style stuff. So I actually transitioned into a lot of like calisthenic style training for a while. I learned a lot from Coach Christopher Summer, gymnastic bodies training. He's the men's youth team coach for the U.S. gymnastics.
Cool.
And I like obsessively studied his material for a long time. Ido Portal was one of his students for a bit.
That name sounds super familiar.
Like movement culture, like a lot of capoeira style movement, like freestyle movement stuff.
Sure. Okay.
So that like transitioned into that. I got into parkour for a while.
Nice.
I was running and jumping and playing outside on concrete for a bit. That was my major form of moving around. And eventually cycled back around and got back into martial arts much later, and cycled in and out of it for a long time, but then ended up at Elevate after a while. Right,
with Brett and Sandra.
Yes,
very cool.
Sensei Brett, Sensei Sandra, and Sensei Caitlin too.
And Caitlin, very. Yep. She's over at she's with Steven now, right?
Yes, at Iron Faith.
Iron Faith, that's right.
Okay, and my coach in BJJ was Radames Familia.
Okay.
Yeah, junior, also known as junior. In BJJ. So he was Pan Am's purple belt, Pan Am's brown belt world champion.
Wow. Where does he train out of?
I think he's at Matt Santos's place right now.
Gotcha.
And also at Playground Jiu-Jitsu with Vin and Paulo over there too.
Playground. I've heard that one. Where's that?
EP. East Providence.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, you had a lot of like training from early on through the gymnastics as far as like body awareness goes, and then through the calisthenics, all that stuff.
So I started gymnastics later. I was first in karate as a little guy.
Sure.
My instructor, now Grandmaster Stephen Lombardi, just promoted me to second degree black belt. So
I saw that. Congrats, man.
Thank you. I've been with him since I was this tall, 5 years old. So I've known him for a while. He, business things happen. He went and became a police officer and eventually SWAT team leader.
Wow.
And I stayed with martial arts for a while. I stayed with Kempo for a while. And then I think at like 12, I kind of got burnt out on it, transitioned into mostly like lifting bars and dumbbells, moving around outside, not really knowing what I was doing, fluctuating in weight up and down, struggling with that. And then I got back into martial arts again, got into some swordsmanship. And traditional jiu-jitsu, not BJJ.
What's the difference there?
Japanese jiu-jitsu. So it was maybe more of an amalgamation of locking into striking, into takedowns, into destroying somebody with a knife on a battlefield sort of idea.
Yes, combat.
As opposed to like friendly competition sport based stuff where you're not trying to destroy your training partners,
Right.
And just as an aside with martial arts too, I think a lot of people misconstrue like sport training and self-defense training. And I think both sides, if somebody is going to take a side on that, because I'm on both sides of this argument, both sides need to see each other's side with a little bit more respect than they do. And people that know both sides, Sensei Brett, for example, completely understands both sides. There's a practical application, and then there's I'm not going to try to be unfair in competition and say like destroy someone out the gate because it's going to ruin their sports career sort of thing. Unless of course you're doing something where, the rule set makes you do that, and that's what it is, right?
It is what it is.
There's a throw that I learned that could just rip someone's rotator cuff right off. And I don't, Connie Basami's been outlawed because it could just tear someone's ACL. Like
which one's the Connie Basami?
The scissor sweep. So basically, like you collar grab and you jump on the guy's leg with your crotch, and you kind of slice him in half with your legs.
And it used to be
like a 90% injury rate or something, right? Like anytime, and you'd see like the biggest guys, the absolutes do it, and it's like that guy's knee just popped, like,
right?
It's like
it bent the wrong way.
250 plus pounds just slammed into his knee. Nobody can handle that. So it's stuff like that keeps the sport alive, because you have more competitors doing stuff and they're not getting like destroyed completely. So the sport can stay alive. You have high level competitors that are still around, right?
Sure.
So the spirit of competition as opposed to the spirit of like war,
right?
Just different things. And both sides can go to such crazy extremes. You have like point karate that can just be about getting points, and there's less practical application. There's still some practical application to it, but there's less. And then you have like some self-defense styles that are like, well, I'll just like poke him in the eye and he'll explode, or if the heart explodes or something. And it's just like, okay, there's a mesh.
Sure.
You need to be, I can go so much further into this, but basically like there's like got to be a mesh of mind, body, and spirit in the thing that you're doing. And, sport should not be for destroying the other person. It should be for winning the competition.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
As honorably as you could possibly do that, I think.
So I want to ask more about karate, because I feel like, especially from people in like the jiu-jitsu world, and then like just the martial art gets kind of a bad rap sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
And
I can understand.
But sure. But I like what you're saying, how like this, like the sport versus the combat, because backtracking a little bit, like you said, Sensei Brett does a good job of, like when he's explaining something, like let's say like there's a position in closed guard, he'll have a quick aside like, hey, listen, like if you're in a street fight, the person's probably gonna be punching you in the face. So this works for sport, but not so much practicality. It's like there's a difference there.
In BJJ, and you can even see this even with grappling. You got BJJ and you got judo. Mm-hmm. Look how much faster grips are taken in judo.
Sure.
Look at the position of dominance, standing. That can happen so much quicker unless somebody learns that out the gate as a white belt or even blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
I've seen people give up their sleeves.
Sure.
And, Sandra and Caitlin won their competitions with double sleeve grab throws, right? Like, so you're going to sit on your butt and like give up your sleeves. This is crazy. Like you lose the spirit of maybe not only competition, but the spirit of like fighting.
Sure.
If you do that.
Sure.
So I think any sport can get watered down to a completely impractical standard.
Sure.
Any sport.
Totally. Yeah. There's a guy who I'm friends with out in Portsmouth. He used to run I think it was Newport Karate or something like that. Toady, Alan Toady. He helps organize the there's an event in Warwick every year for like a big karate like tournament. I'm gonna forget the name of it, but the people from all over the country come, and they have like the different style competitions there. They'll do like the some of them will do like the objects, like I don't know if it's swords or like they'll do their like presentation, like they'll show the moves,
demos,
and then some of them will do, and then actually will have like some sort of like sport style like karate, like if you make contact you get a point, separate, make contact, get a point, separate. So I guess explain, because it seems like there are so many different like types and facets and like styles like within the branch of karate.
Oh yeah.
So I guess explain that to me a little bit.
It's not an exact science.
Sure.
So you have incredibly good instructors that have been around for a really long time, mixed with instructors that don't know everything about everything, and they're also instructing, and there's some standardization that occurs. And so you have like schools of thought around particular ideas of strategies that work.
Gotcha.
Right? And like a lot of karate, the lineage of karate can be traced back to Okinawa. That can get traced back to China. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, most karate branches off White Crane Kung Fu. And so there's an entire set of ideas around how to deal with incoming striking without trading damage for damage.
Okay.
Right. So there are angles and positions that you can take that are superior. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't also learn how to trade blows if it came down to it, but the primary purpose would be to out-angle, out-maneuver, take on as little incoming pressure as possible, and cause as much damage to your opponent as possible.
Sure.
You know, if you can do that, you're probably going to have statistically a higher likelihood of winning battle, right?
Totally.
It just stands to reason. If you on a battlefield put all your troops directly against all those troops and they just go 1 for 1, you just got a bunch of dead troops and nobody made any headway in the battle. So
right.
Fire versus fire, or say fire versus water sort of thing.
Okay.
But karate, I think a lot of what happened with karate is some other styles of striking came in and started to influence the way that the maneuvering in karate occurs, and also the need for the sport to continue to dangle a carrot for people to chase.
Okay.
Right? Some people can train just because they like training. I'm one of those guys that trains because he likes training. I don't really like competing. I made myself compete because I knew it was a thing that I would struggle with doing.
Sure.
But I'm not really motivated by medals and championships and being a guy that's particularly good at these things.
Okay, yeah.
I like learning stuff.
Sure.
So there's the crazy, spirit monk guys that go into it and do it that way. And then there's people that want to do it for championships and titles and yield a result for it and that sort of thing. Both are fine. And if you're somewhere in between, or you manage to do both, I think it's also great. I think karate started to lean more towards the championships and medals, and how can we get a lot of kids to do it, and how can we enforce discipline on children in a positive way, get them to work hard, and not be afraid of confrontation. I think it did a pretty good job. And then of course there's a bell curve to everything. So it reached a point of diminishing returns, and we'll probably start to see the same things occur in some of the sports that are coming up right now, or have been around for the last 20 years that we've been watching for a bit.
Fair enough.
Anything can reach that point where it's like, wow, this is really cool, and it's new, and it's innovative, and it's bringing this to the table. And now what happened? Like, what did it turn into? Like, because to keep it around, you got to evolve it to a point in which a decent amount of people can pool to do it.
Sure.
So you can have a lot of competitors and keep the sport alive. And then sometimes it can go off the deep end, I think.
Right.
Making sense with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, drawing a parallel, let me know if I'm off base here, but let's say with jiu-jitsu, for example, I know what's huge right now is leg stuff. So, and like what you were saying earlier, like some of these moves are becoming illegal because of the high risk of injury. So at what point do we become so good at them? And the injuries, we're so close to that injury perspective. But no, I get that for sure. Especially, I'm sure, like, it's big in Nogi. Like Nogi kind of, and I don't want to talk out of like turn as far as like, because I'm just a white belt in it, but it seems like that's become a huge part of your game is leg stuff. But
and I've been out of jiu-jitsu for as long as my son has been alive at this point. So I'm not familiar with the current stance in jiu-jitsu and currently what's going on, but I've heard that from a couple of my old training partners that have said, oh man, I just don't want anything to do with this part of jiu-jitsu because it's just turned into this now. Any part of anything is going to be like you take Floyd Mayweather in boxing. It's like, man, people complain, man, it's really boring to watch him. It's because he's got a defensive style of striking and it wins. It's like, does he want to give up his brains for a paycheck? Okay, so it's boring to watch. That guy's capitalizing on it. You know what I mean? If you're going to get mad at a jiu-jitsu player for laying on top of somebody else and you say, call him lazy, it's like, all right, I get it, but
he's doing what he needs to do to win.
It's the sport of jiu-jitsu, so it is legal in that, and somebody found a way to capitalize and basically be smart and lazy about it. So, win your game.
Fair enough.
Like I was saying with Sandra and Caitlin, and I do not want to speak for them, but from what I know, they've won a lot of competitions with the same dang strategy every time. It's like they go to grab, you counter, they go to grab again, you counter, and throw the hell out of them. Like, there you go. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do you need to learn all 170 throws or something in judo? I think something like that to be able to like effectively go win tournaments? Probably not. You probably need a handful and do them from every angle that you can come up with, and just
be really good at it.
Just understand how to counter what the other person's doing, and that's your game plan. Get in the greatest shape that you can, get as strong as you can, use your strategy.
Right. There's something you had posted on Instagram that I was going through, and you mentioned, and get this kind of backtracking a little bit, but for calisthenics, you said that's one of the best ways to kind of test yourself for martial arts. Yeah. As far as, so talk to me about like what, because I know you've worked with quite a few like martial artists as clients, friends, everything. And I'm sure everybody's protocol looks different depending on what they need.
Definitely. Yeah.
But I guess to generalize, like what's a good program for like martial artists and for the gym, the weight room, stuff like that?
Let me zoom out a little bit on that. So you want to have your base of conditioning first, right? And I think what a lot of people do when they want to train for a competition is they should have a little bit of a further projected deadline on what they're doing. A lot of people will come in and say, I want this done in X amount of weeks. And I'm like, no, you should probably be thinking months in advance, right? And that's not to say that we can't get somebody more physically prepared in a short amount of time. If you want to yield the best result that you possibly can, you probably want to plan it 6 to 8 months in advance, not 4 weeks in advance or something like that. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to, be super strong, and I got to cut weight, and I got to be super fast, and I got to do all these drills 6 days a week. And it's like, that's impossible. Like, you should have started a long time. So you want to have your base. You want to have your musculature. I personally think that basic bodybuilding done correctly, go to RP, listen to everything that they have to say about basic bodybuilding. Good stimulus to fatigue ratio on exercises. So you're picking good exercise selection. Get an idea of your volume landmarks so you know how many sets and reps per body part that you can handle per week, per training cycle. Build on that. Get to your maximum recoverable volume or as close as you possibly can. Deload, go into a maintenance phase, then do your sport-specific training. Block here of bodybuilding, take time off, go into a block that's sport-specific. In your sport-specific block, prep with strength training at a higher volume, taper into basically no strength training, go into your sport specific only training, then go to competition. Nice. That's how I would set somebody up. That's the overview.
That's the basic structure. And I like how and there's a lot of terms in there. I kind of want to break those down a little bit. Sure. But to start, I like how you said, like, hey, someone coming in, like, oh, I need like 6 weeks, because one of the podcasts I just shot this week was a guy he's a national level Olympic style weightlifter, and he was talking about how like he had a lot of setbacks. I forget what it was, through school, final, because he's in college right now, and like sickness, like 6 weeks out, and he's like,
it's tough.
See, and so at the 6 week out mark from a comp, he's like, oh shit, I don't know if I'm gonna be ready, because his training block is so long. Yeah. And he ended up doing great, but just to put into perspective, like 6 weeks is not all that much time. It's not. We're talking about training blocks.
You're talking about adaptation. Like, how long does it take to yield that adaptation? Muscular adaptation is super quick. A strength adaptation. Yeah. How many? You should be thinking in like how many training cycles. A lot of people come in and they get nervous about training for a competition, and I'm like, why are you nervous? Why do you care?
Sure.
Like, you just got to admit, you're going to suck. It's okay. You're going to be terrible. Go in, just have a good time. Yeah. Get together with some friends. Go with some friends.
Totally.
Learn. Ask everybody that's there that's better than you what to do. Have fun. Right. Pay the money. Pay your dues. Do that 8 times. Do that 16 times. You've put in 4 years, 5 years into something. Now you can start caring how you place.
Right.
Or like what your numbers are if you're pulling, weightlifting or powerlifting or something. Like, you shouldn't care. Yeah. You shouldn't. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a goal. Sure. I'm not saying you shouldn't try to achieve that goal. But if you're putting unrealistic expectations on yourself to like win, even if you do win like first place, I think it's a curse, because you just think like, oh, I'm so good at this. Like, I don't even need to do anything anymore.
Right.
Where's your development?
That's tough.
One of my best clients, Brenna, she's been with me for, it's got to be 14 years now or so. I didn't train her for anything heavy for 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years.
Wow.
Nothing. Not a single. I was like, if you can't do this exactly like this, I don't even care. I just want. And she loves the game of pushing herself. She doesn't care about where she places. She didn't even know that where she was ranked in states. Like, she didn't even understand what her records were. This last comp that we went to, Ashley had to go up to her and say, "Hey, did you set the record in that?" She's like, "Oh no, there's no record. You go set the record in that." Oh, okay. And it's just like she loves the game of like being in the gym and pushing it. And the focus is controlling what you're doing, building on your own personal records, pushing yourself beyond those records, and you see where you land by the time you get to competition. And then you figure it out afterwards. You reflect upon what happened after that's already done. You don't need to put that. And she's nervous going into it. Don't get me wrong. She is nervous. Like, I hope I do well, probably some psychology about like not letting me down or something is somewhere in there. Sure. But it's mostly about enjoying the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And to think about it too, like going back to that, it's like how many hours, days, weeks are you spending time in the training portion of it? That time is spent in competition is such a small percentage of the entire process.
Right? Imagine if that's the only thing that you cared about. Like you didn't like training, you hated training, and you just grinded through it, 10,000 hours, because they say it's 10,000 hours to get it and like 100,000 hours to refine it, right? And I think that pretty much holds true in damn near anything. Which comes out to something like, 3 years to kind of get to know what you're doing and 30 years to get really good at it. Even from a coaching perspective of looking at it,
Totally.
There shouldn't be any ego about what you're doing. It's just like, I gave it the best that I did. I feel good about what I did. I did better than I did before, and I'm going to walk away and I'm probably going to do it again, provided I can stay safe in my training and not get destroyed in training. And I'll just push forward again in the future. That's the way that I view it as a coach.
I like that too. And not to beat this topic to death, but there's a way that you probably know John North.
Oh yeah,
I used to listen to his podcast a lot, so I use a lot of John North examples. But he would, I think there was one time, Cal Strength. There was one time because he has his own coaching platform, Attitude Nation, and his weightlifters. I think on one podcast, this is a few years ago, but he was saying how like sign up for as many competitions as you can, which I'm sure there's pros and cons to that.
Yeah, sure.
But he's like, it's just. Don't think about it like anything else other than like it's just a day you get to go slam some bars. Like you get to go lift heavy with your friends. So
there it is. So there's a little gem in there too. And I'll cycle back to my art instructor because he gives me a ton of good gems on this stuff. And it's just so good to have. He was a boxer. He was a wrestler. So he knows some stuff other than just doing like fine art stuff. Yeah. He's clearly a guy that can like move himself around.
Sure.
But that attitude of gratitude that, if you get caught in the happiness of, I have a working, functioning, physical being of a body, I'm going to go do that. Like, as opposed to, I got to get through this workout again today, man. I got to lift these weights. Oh, why is it so heavy?
Right.
It's so easy to just like flip that switch and go like, oh, I'm a victim to my workout program right now. Like, why would you do that to yourself? Are you kidding? You earned the pressure that's on your back. If you're squatting like these crazy weights and you're like, man, that used to be my 1 rep max and now I got to do sets of 8 with it. Yeah. You earned that. So it's never easy. You're the same person doing the same struggle the entire way up. It's just you got used to how much it sucks to do it, and you get to, revel in the victory of going through it afterwards.
Totally. No, I like that a lot. And I guess I kind of want to make sure I get into your start with Ronin Strength.
Oh yeah.
And so we'll switch topics just a little bit on that because first, what is the tell me about the name?
Oh,
and then we'll get into it a little bit.
Yeah, so here's my little logo here. This was done by my buddy Jarrett.
Very cool.
He's a good dude. And this is like a bastardization of the word Ronin in Japanese. Ronin is a wanderling, masterless samurai. And basically, I'm a wanderer through things. I'm an enthusiast. I'm an obsessive enthusiast. But I'm not the guy that can really have an easy time pigeonholing myself into like one arena.
Totally.
I really like exploring stuff and I like learning stuff. I like sharing the stuff that I've learned and I like seeing people develop. And that kind of all formed into me ending up coaching people.
Totally.
So like I said, I was in graphic design and I was doing illustration stuff. I was trying to go into art, didn't get into RISD, had some qualifications, did not have some other qualifications. Long story short, found a job doing personal training on the side. And I was like, I'll try personal training. Sure. Why not? That turned into, well, I got to have some kind of brand that represents me. I'm thinking it's got to be movement based because I like movement. And I know that's a whole thing now. I ended up taking years and years and years to actually learn how in-depth all of this stuff can be, and didn't know so much at the beginning. But I've always aimed towards having the strength training that I've learned reflect back on my values for martial arts, self-defense, and kind of give back to the community of people that do martial arts and really enjoy learning about combat, athletics, and self-defense and things. So I kind of reached a pinnacle in my striking development as a kid that unless I was going to be going into like a competitive striking, I was like, okay, I got that portion down, but I'm really terrible at grappling. Like, I don't know anything about like grabbing, throwing, ground fighting, nothing. And that's eventually what landed me in that arena. And then, of course, when you change arenas and you change like the adaptations that you're seeking, because striking is not even close to the same thing as grappling.
Sure.
If you mix the two together, it becomes very difficult to train for. But like one's like very much strength based and one is like speed and power based.
Sure.
You know, so it's similar to how weightlifting and powerlifting are gonna have different like much different programming. You're going to have different programming for a striker versus a pure grappler.
Gotcha.
The grappler's got to be really strong and have like a lot of work capacity at a lot of angles, and the striker's got to be able to explode a lot all the time. That work capacity's got to be high for that explosive precision, the movement, the maneuvering. And I'm not saying you cannot train for both, and I'm not saying that grappling is not explosive. It certainly is.
Sure.
There is just an element of sustained pressure.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
That
time under tension.
Yeah. There's a lot more of that in a grappling arena than there is in a striking arena. And it's not that clinching is, not grappling. It certainly is. It's just that there's like interruptions in clinching. There's going to be a takedown or there's going to be a strike, and you don't have to sit there literally rolling around on top of somebody for the next 3 minutes. You know what I mean? Like where you're just like locked in a position and you're trying to figure out how to like, unravel them or wrap them up.
Yeah.
The strength training, I just realized where I had these improficiencies in understanding how to make my body adapt and how to make other people's bodies adapt that were training alongside me. And so I just dove into that stuff and tried to figure out what I could do with it. And I think I have some bead on how to approach that effectively, at least for amateurs.
Sure.
At this point. And that's what that brand is primarily geared towards. It's people that want to do martial arts training, are just kind of getting into it and don't really know their ass from their elbow as to how to strength train. And instead of doing a gazillion push-ups and running for 30 miles straight and unlimited sit-ups,
the Rocky workouts,
the Baki, the grappler workouts, not knowing what to do with it, how to kind of put the two worlds together in a way that will yield the results without just browbeating yourself like, I just got to go harder and faster and run those steps the day before I go to competition. It's like being a dead horse with the ridiculous training protocols that can come out of martial arts training.
Totally.
You've seen a ton of this, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's, and I like how you said too earlier, how like you got into like the movement piece of it, which when did you start personal training? How long ago now?
2007.
So yeah, that was before CrossFit existed, I think.
I was on the very edge of the beginning of CrossFit because I used to listen to Rob Wolf a lot.
Okay.
That was going way back to podcasts that I used to listen to, like way back.
Yeah.
I used to listen to everything by Rob Wolf. I took a cert with Rob in Boston. Yeah, way back when. He's a great dude. He's
That's
a really
cool.
Great dude. Nutrition. And then I did, and Rob was good friends with Coach Christopher Summer too, and so that kind of all like meshed together.
Very cool.
The movement portion right out the gate was always really important to me. I think I didn't understand how to get the strength portion to enhance the movement portion for a long time.
Sure.
And so I did pigeonhole myself into the strength realm for a long time, not realizing that a lot of the stuff around stimulus to fatigue ratio, one of the best concepts that I've heard come out of Dr. Mike's mouth in the last few years.
So what does that term mean?
Basically picking an exercise that doesn't beat you up. Pick an exercise that yields a nice muscular stimulus and therefore a hypertrophic effect where you're going to gain some muscle mass. And then you basically, from gaining that muscle mass, you can teach that mass of muscle to move better by said principle. So you just put it in you're going to be a striker. Okay, your big legs need to learn how to kick things. You can't just squat. You can't just do like knee ups or something like that. You have to actually find the angles and learn how to, say, carve out those little fine, minute points of movement after you've put the mass on your body. That's supposed to produce the strength base, which produces the power and the speed thereafter subsequently, right?
Totally. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, and you use another term in there to kind of piggyback on that. The I think it was max recoverable
volume. Yeah, the volume landmarks by RP is that was crazy for me to. I can't believe for so long. Everybody thinks that they're just supposed to train and train and train and train more and more and more, and if you're not training hard enough, you're really not hitting it hard, man. Like they used to hit it way harder back in the day, and nobody knew what they were doing, and they didn't take any time off, and overtraining's a myth, whatever. Okay. Yeah. So so you establish your base, like you picked good exercises. How many times do you do that exercise? To what degree? How many reps? How many sets? And it's like most people don't know anything about this. And even most gym goers don't really know anything about this, right? People don't realize like some of the lower repetition landmarks, like a 5 to 10 rep range is going to yield a decent amount of like a sledgehammer effect on your body, right? And if you go pretty close to failure within 3 reps or so, close to failure, you're probably going to hammer the crap out of your body and yield some of the best results. But I think because we see Ronnie Coleman on Instagram lifting Dorian Yates, we're just like, wow, I'm never going to be that. Yeah, of course you're not going to be that, dude. That's the best in the world, first off. Second off, they're on a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
right. Do you even
that will change the max recoverable piece of
it? Yeah. And that hypertrophic stimulus that they can get can be at a different amount because they can recover from that stimulus. And so much to go into that. But anyway, like in martial arts, you see like old Shaolin style training where they would have them run up steps, sit in a horse stance, hold on to a gourd for an hour or something crazy. And they're just like beating the crap out of their bodies. And then they train for like 8 hours plus a day. Yeah. In different modalities. Sure. You wake up, you meditate, you clean the entire temple, you go eat a bowl of rice, and then you start lifting or you start doing kata or something like that. And it's like you have like an entire day schedule for training, which some of what we run into in our country is we have jobs,
sure.
right? Like we don't get to be full-time athletes. Like most of us are not going to be paid to be athletes.
Right.
That's a thing. Like for anybody that doesn't realize that, if you don't get to go home, take a nap, come back, do it again later, that's a thing that's restricting how fast you can get that turnover and adaptation. So don't beat yourself up about that unless you're trying to be a pro athlete and that's all you want to pursue, which that's a toss up whether it's a fruitful endeavor or not, right? Because like it's been a long time for Brenna. She's at national qualifiers now. I think
that's awesome.
Yeah. And so how much money has she yielded from powerlifting? Not enough to cover her training. We'll just say that much, right? So you got all this training. You have to recover from it. You have to know how much you can do, how much you can push, how much you should not push. That you need an idea of what you can do in a week and return to baseline and do it again and slightly better, right? So you can beat your own records. If you have no idea where your volume landmarks are and you see a workout online, 10 by 10 squats, Bulgarian style or whatever, right? It's like, do you need to start at that? If you've never squatted in your life, do you need 10 sets of 10 as hard as possible? You probably could get by with 1 set of 10, come back in 3 days and like do it again in 2 sets or something like that, right? And just be like, oh yeah, I kind of feel that again. Wait till your body adapts and responds to that. Like so many people are doing these like generic programs and never checking in to see like what they need to get beyond the introduction chapter to their book of training. You know
right.
what I mean? It's just like, I'm going to go do this guy's thing. Now I'm going to follow this men's fitness workout. Oh, I saw this movement on Instagram. I haven't done this in a while. I think I'm going to go do some of those.
Yeah.
A little bit of that I think is okay.
Little dabble.
But like if you understand the potency of picking one good exercise, you only need like one or two things in a starter routine. It's going to beat the crap out of your body. I've even had people try to do calf raises too early in their programming using like super deep squatting. And they're like, man, it's kind of acting up with my ankle right now. And there's a whole bunch of things that go into that too. But like, it's like, oh, okay, well, you don't really need to do those right now. It's not going to make that much of a difference. Let's just try squatting for a bit and getting as many joints to move as possible with one movement, right?
Yeah, totally. That's something that whole idea of max recoverable volume too is something I see in like PT and rehab a lot too, especially when it comes down to like people who do the standard like bodybuilding split routine of like Tuesdays just chest. I'm not gonna hit chest again till the next week. I'm like, well, I know you crush your chest on Tuesdays, but you have a chest injury, so like let's actually do chest like 3 days a week, but as a rehab style. Like they're like, wait, 3 days a week, that'll be way too much. I'm like, well, we're not gonna do it the same way. Volume up, we're gonna do it nice and easy, like, and then we can actually hit it more frequently and more often and get it. So
thus it turns into a strength protocol. It turns into like you're trying to yield the adaptation with the correct dosage in the right amount of time, which, not to knock people that try to train themselves, I'm one of them. I would have done way better if I had somebody that was that knowledgeable overseeing what I was doing and just being like, what if you just put this over here and try this many, go a little bit deeper here and change this angle, and how does that feel? How do your joints feel the next day? You get somebody to check in and oversee that stuff, it makes a tremendous difference. Tremendous. It goes from ineffective to very effective in like a few moves. Just like having an instructor go like, why are you sparring that hard? Are you working on anything? Or are you just like trying to beat the other guy? What's the purpose of that in sparring? Like maybe pre-competition, it is kind of important to train hard enough to feel the pressure of another person like trying to overcome you. But most of the time, sparring's either got to be playful or educational or both.
Not to beat you up.
And so it's crazy because I was that masochistic guy too that just wanted to beat himself up with training and just be like, I'm not training hard enough. I'm just going to be hard on myself. And that's the way that I'm, it's going to try. And to a degree that got me to like a certain size and stuff. But again, like just offsetting that job to somebody else and just saying, can you control the amount of work that I'm doing? So that I don't just burn myself out is big, is big,
100%. Yeah, that's why I get to hire a coach.
I know you're talking with Dave from Providence Barbell Club. Right?
I had a podcast with him almost a year ago now.
Dave was saying, was it 1 is better than 5, 2 is better than 4, 3 is like the sweet spot? He used to say that, right? Is that
as far as
training frequency, like
yes.
It's like there's like a dosage that's just like, well, you can keep up with 3 days a week, like 4 might edge on burning you out. 5 is probably gonna burn you out. You know what I mean? Like some people will need that and some people will need more than that, but that's the point where you got to go, you need a team of people coaching you. Because if you just do this, you're gonna get like beat to hell.
I mean, guys like you said, like Dr. Mike's been huge, but RP Strength is like, I feel like him, Jeff Nippard. I feel like those are guys more so on like the pure strength training aspect, but like they're doing an awesome job combining what the research says. But people who are just in the research and not in the practical aspect don't really do a good job of like bringing the two together. And those two guys, I'm sure I want to talk about Poliquin too, because I know you had a big background in Poliquin. But I think they're doing an awesome job of pushing the whole like sports science side forward.
For sure.
But Poliquin's actually a guy I know I've heard the name thrown around a ton of times, but I haven't really dove into his stuff too much. So I want to get like your I won't keep you too much longer, whatever I guess a broad strokes like kind of his style.
I was working at Next Level in Johnston.
Right. I trained there for a while.
It's a great place.
It is.
Love Rainey, love all those guys. That was like eye opener for me. I was like, wow, there's a lot of strong people here. Like they're way stronger than me. I have a lot to learn. Okay.
I feel like a lot of Rhode Island, not to cut you off, but a lot of Rhode Island gyms like were produced out of Next Level.
Yeah,
whereas
for sure.
they've spent time in Next Level.
For sure. For sure. There's so many people that roll through there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a huge powerlifting gym too.
Sure.
Football, powerlifting. So, when I was at Next Level, that's like kind of where I got my feet wet doing strength training for real. Like I was doing gymnastics training before that, but I didn't do like the hardcore bodybuilding style stuff till I got to Next Level.
Cool. Okay.
Probably around a decade ago or more. Yeah, more than a decade ago at this point. So when I was at Next Level, I came across, I can't remember exactly how I came across Charles' stuff, but I did come across Charles' stuff, and I just started diving into Charles' stuff. And the more that I dove into it, because I was also really strangely into old school strength training, like old school barbell strength training, Arthur Jones and like the Eugene Sandow, like the old barbell guys.
Yeah,
like
I don't even know.
They're the first guys that kind of started weightlifting culture.
Okay.
About, 100 plus years ago. Okay. So a barbell wasn't a thing. They turned it into a thing.
Gotcha.
Progressive overload wasn't a thing. Everything was filled with sand, so it wasn't like plates. There was no plate loading back then. So it was just like, this is this weight. Can you lift it? It is a weight. And so you had like, the Thomas Inch dumbbell. That was another guy. It's like a 3-inch thick handle with a 375-pound dumbbell, something like that. It's like a crazy dumbbell. If I get the weight right on that. And I know they do it at the strongman competition.
Is it the big circus style?
It's circus style.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so Thomas Inch was like the only guy that could like pick it up off the ground and throw it over his head. And like most people that were strong couldn't even pick it up off the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, it's because it's 3 inches around.
That's
so, I was into that stuff. I was looking at a ton of that stuff. I was into grip strength at the time. Kind of the gymnastics thing transitioned into like, I was interested in like, I want to get my hands a lot stronger. I want to do like rafter pull-ups where you grab onto like 2x4s and you can do pull-ups on it because it's just cool and weird.
Yeah.
And I started to look at Charles' stuff, and he referenced a lot of those guys in his strength training. Yeah, he went back and read all of those books, and he's like, science and these guys that were really strong, I'm going to look at what they did and see if I can extrapolate some protocols from what they did. So a lot, like I think like a few dozen of his protocols are like almost direct translations of like a lot of those old school books. Wow. The thing that I did like about Charles' stuff, and there's still, Charles has since passed away, but there is a whole bunch of people that are still pushing his material out there for anybody that's interested. There's an Instagram page called Remembering Charles Poliquin. I believe it's run by his daughter. Good stuff. A lot of thick grip stuff, a lot of arm stuff, split squats, knees over toes guy, Ben Patrick.
Yeah.
Got, if I'm not mistaken, his protocols from Charles.
Gotcha.
So that split squat training, a lot of split squat training, which is genius protocol, by the way. Everybody check that out too, the ATG coaches and knees over toes guy. Cool stuff. Charles put a lot of those things together in a pretty manageable format that was maybe for some people a little bit too micromanaged. You had sets, reps, tempo, training, rest periods. Being the person that I am, I followed it to the letter. Yeah. If it said 60 seconds, I had a timer on the ground. I'm looking at the clock. I'm counting the tempo as I'm squatting, and I'm like, this is destroying me. I never had a joint problem, though, when I was training like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of tempo work.
Yeah. A ton. Charles used to use a 4-part protocol for tempo. So the eccentric, the bottom, the concentric, the top. Okay. So you pause at the bottom or pause at the top. He'd have a number in there. Usually most things were like slow eccentric, possibly a pause at the bottom or not, fast concentric, like represented by an X. So just move the weight as fast as possible, which for most athletes, I think is going to be like the standard protocol of like push the weight, like get that concentric movement to happen. It's not going to yield much hypertrophic response. You really got to go towards that eccentric failure portion of things to yield a big hypertrophic response. And then you have the top position, which is usually you're not holding there isometrically for anything because you're just resting on your skeletal structure.
Sure.
So, but breaking it down like that, I was like, those are things that you can like do stuff with in a training protocol. Wow. Rest period is a thing.
Yeah.
Incomplete or complete rest period. I didn't realize that was a thing. because I think a lot of people go to the gym, they're running around like a madman if they're like a masochist that's like trying to follow some like Tabata style or like general conditioning program. It's just like, I'm going to do this and this, and then so I'm going to circuit, and then I'm going to superset these, I'm going to do some pull-ups, and then I'm going to get out of the gym. And that's like the person that's working really hard. And then you have like the rest of us that are like, I'm going to sit for like 10 minutes in between my set and wait for my next set to be the best set of my life, you know, and have like full recovery and everything. And Charles put a nice in between for those two things. And also one of the biggest takeaways from Charles's protocols was I would superset reciprocal inhibition, superset exact opposite movements, push pull regimen. You know, it just saves time. It's not necessary to do it, but if you are tight on time and you got to get like a big protocol in and there's a decent amount of volume, you're doing 4 to 5 sets in exercise, and you want to, you know, go to the gym less days per week, and you can handle it with good quality training, supersetting exact opposite movements, bicep, tricep, push, pull, you know. Even hamstring, quad. There was a lot of that in there. So Charles popularized that for me. German body composition training was a cool way of doing that. So that was like short rest periods with full body training regimens with reciprocal inhibition in there with tempo. Brutal, like absolutely brutal. If you do like one of the first German body composition protocols, I think it was like bench press, a squat, a bench press, a pull up, and a deadlift. Like 1, rest, 2, rest, 3, rest, 4, rest. Start with a 12 rep max. You only have a minute to go from one station to the next, to the next, to the next. Do as many as you can. Try not to vomit by set 2. Because by the time you get through the deadlift, if you can even hold yourself together, you're going to be destroyed on round 3 if you're trying hard and you're kind of strong to start. You shouldn't do it if you're like a newbie. Obviously.
More intermediate, advanced lifter.
Intermediate to advanced lifter if you're going to do something like that. Of course, it's going to beat the crap out of you. And like none of your smaller muscle structures it's going to beat up that much, but like your nerves will be fried after that workout. You know, that's a killer one. Done that a few times. That was great. I got multiple times certified at the Poliquin Institute. I had come to find out after being at Next Level and reading a bunch of that stuff that they were down the street, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. They were right, and was it East Greenwich area?
Really?
Like not too far from Elevate. And I was like, no way. That's crazy. Because I was reading
That's the HQ?
Yeah, that was. It was. It isn't right now, but it was. They had moved there from Arizona.
Wow.
And I was reading a book, and on the back of it had said Arizona, and then I read another book, and it was like Rhode Island. And I was like, What? Like this coach, like this celebrity figure coach that I'm reading is in Rhode Island. Like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And I never got to meet Charles in person. I got coached by his top tier coaches at that time.
Okay.
Andre Benoit and Derek Woodsky.
Okay.
And Derek's a great guy too. Shout out to Derek. He came down to Next Level at one point in time.
Cool.
Huge guy, super strong thrower. But yeah, it was a good time. Poliquin stuff was good. It was leaning more towards the strength side of things. Whereas I think I counterbalanced a lot of my protocols now with a lot of the RP leaning towards the bodybuilding stuff. And that kind of filled the gap for what I wanted to do with strength training.
Sure.
And RP fills the gap of what I wanted to do for bodybuilding style stuff.
Sure.
You know.
Really cool.
That's kind of how I organize it in my head, at least. And then the gymnastics body stuff that I studied too kind of covers the calisthenics area that I wanted to.
Yeah. And those are kind of like really your 3 main like spheres, I guess, so you can overlap with
weightlifting would have been the other one. If there was anything
else. You did
else.
Some weightlifting.
I did with Dave for 3 some odd years.
Yeah.
I competed a couple times, 2018, 17, I want to say.
Cool.
Something like that. Yeah. I never got to the level that I wanted to. I dislocated some bones in my hand doing a clean.
I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Came to find out after I got into a little accident too. Somebody had sideswiped my car, and I had like an MRI done on myself. And they were like, "Did you know that like most of your rotator cuff is torn?" I was like, "No." No wonder why I couldn't snatch that weight. Wow.
How's it feel?
It's fine.
Yeah,
it doesn't interrupt me, but like anytime I would go to like do anything over 210 in a snatch, it was like, this feels impossible. Like I can't go from here to here fast enough or hard enough to hold it. I feel like my back is going to explode for some reason.
Like
my upper back. And I could still
overhead full external rotation position.
It was very difficult.
Gotcha.
You could, if you watched me do like an overhead squat when I did have the flexibility to do it, which I absolutely do not right now, I would like twitch, like my traps would like twitch. Yeah, because
everything was firing.
Everything was firing.
To try to make up for that rotator cuff.
Yeah. Wow. I had like a 75% tear in infraspinatus, supraspinatus, and I think Terry's possibly.
All four of them.
Yeah, right. And I was like, wow.
It's a thing from training or martial arts or just who knows?
God knows. In parkour training, I remember like taking like tumbles where I was like, I feel like I dislocated my shoulder. I don't know. I'm just gonna go back to training in a couple of days. Like never like looked at it or anything, you know.
Right. So I've had some pretty bad spills in snowboarding on both. I ended up having to get surgery on this one for labrum, but I'm sure if they took a look at this one, they'd probably find some messed up stuff in it.
Do you find it interrupts anything that you
do? My lockout position in the snatch it feels decent, but I feel like it could be potentially better if my shoulders worked, especially because of the surgery they did on this side. They locked it so it doesn't have as much external rotation on it on purpose, so it doesn't dislocate as much.
Yes.
So
forcing you into stability.
Yes, exactly. You're gonna be stable here. Right. But no, it's not too bad.
Do you still play jiu-jitsu too?
I haven't in a while. I want to say about a year, but it's maybe even a little bit longer than that. What's funny is my brother has gotten really, really into it, and I kind of introduced him to the sport.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's quite a blue belt yet, but he competes a lot, so he's in that realm of like the school he's at. He's doing pretty well at competitions. They're like, hey, you could be a white belt a little longer and like keep doing well and having fun at competitions. We'll promote you like when it's time. But he's like right on the edge of being there. But he's really liking it.
Nice.
So every time I see him, we mess around, just roll around on the ground. But
how old is he?
He's 2 years younger than me.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I think 2 years. I don't think he's quite 30 yet. I'm 32. I think he's 29.
Yeah.
But
you guys keep each other in shape.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fun. I always say jiu-jitsu is one of those sports like when I'm in it, I'm fully immersed in it.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time finding that balance, and it's just because I'm busy and I have other stuff going on. Of like trying to do, because I'm like you in many ways as far as like I kind of have like ADD as far as like that's what I call it anyway. I like to try a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu that one thing I found that's hard to like drop in every once in a while.
Yes. You need that context, right?
Yeah,
like any art that you go into, and it's similar to like drawing illustration too. You can only push forward if you can kind of catch back up to where your brain was at before, because otherwise you're like, I think I know what they're talking about, but I didn't get like 5 other words because I have no idea what those terms are. I'm like lost undersea, like right now. I'm, and then you find like you're drowning in information, and you're like, for me, it's reps. Sure. Just put in reps. It becomes boring. Great. That's exactly the point in which you can push forward for more stuff, right? The minute it becomes boring, it's like you need new stimulus. Let that stuff sink in. Get that technique mastery. And I honestly think all of this relates to everything. It relates to martial arts. It could relate to business practices.
Sure.
And when you want to expand your business, could relate to strength training, bodybuilding. Get the technique dialed in. Wait until you don't see a stimulative growth from it. Then push forward. Or potentially drive yourself nuts.
Choice is yours.
F around and find out, like people like to say now, all right?
I'm going to start to wrap up because I want to be respectful of your time here. We're a little over an hour in. So I have a couple wrap-up questions for you. So I'll say them all right now. So we got anything that's in store for the future, anything you want to plug, and then the last question I leave people with is a Tim Ferriss quote. It's Tim Ferriss saying from his podcast, but your favorite quote. So favorite quote, mantra, saying. And the way I describe it is in Rhode Island, so we have Route 95 and 195. Let's use 195 because it's a shit show right now.
Yeah, right.
You get a billboard on 195, and you get that billboard for the day, and you can basically say whatever you want to, community, Rhode Island, anything you want. But we'll start with, you can think about that for a second.
Sure.
Anything in store for the future that you're excited about? Anything coming up?
Absolutely. So I just started a newsletter. I hope to produce as much as possible that helps people out. If anybody's following, listening, first off, thank you for getting through everything that I ranted about. My God.
No, that was
a trooper. And subscribe to my newsletter. You can go to my Instagram, subscribe to my newsletter, Ronin Strength. So coming up, if anybody has any questions or anything I can help with, I'll see if I can just turn it to content. I am excited about that. I'm excited about doing more stuff online with people.
Cool.
Plugs, Legacy Thai Boxing, Brian Bogu. Plugs for Elevate, Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. Iron Faith, Matt Santos. AMC, where we are right now, American Muscle Corps in Pawtucket. CrossFit Providence, Tanner.
Yeah.
I think that's and Next Level and Johnson. Those are awesome people. And the quote, so I actually have like a little motto.
Perfect.
That goes with this. Long time ago, Moriai Ueshiba, creator of Aikido, had a quote that was Masakatsu Agatsu, which means true victory is victory over oneself. So that kind of encompasses everything that I'm about with this brand. My brand is not primarily devoted towards competition, although it could include that. It is primarily devoted to a person pushing themselves and looking at the benefit of enjoying the act of pushing themselves to their limit. There's that old Socratic quote about you can't really know yourself unless you push yourself to your limit.
Sure.
Something along those lines. So it's I really try to spread that awareness with people that you want to enjoy the process and you want to enjoy the act of training, because it's like, man, if you ever got your arm taken away from you or your leg taken away from you, you'd realize really quick how that changes your entire being. So get outside, go look at some sunlight, like not directly, but like go look at a sky that's like it'll help your eyes. Like you won't lose focus by staring at a screen all day long. Like go for a walk, enjoy moving your body. Don't just get caught up in this particular aspect of competition and this particular aspect of competition, then beat yourself for not being good enough at it. Honestly, you probably just need a lot more time, and you're not going to give yourself that time unless you really enjoy it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mic drop. I love it. Good stuff, man. Yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
And we'll end it with that. Rody Strength signing off.